On this episode of Rock Down South, we chat with Nathan Hunt from the rock band Shaman's Harvest. We talk all about their brand new album titled Rebelator and much, much more. We hope you all enjoy. Let's go. Welcome to another exciting episode of Rock Down South, a show where my friends and I chat with musical artists and ask them the questions we want to know about. Today, we sit down and talk with Nathan Hunt from the rock band Shaman's Harvest. And if you haven't listened to Shaman's Harvest, then you guys are really missing out. These guys have some killer songs and albums. Also, Nate is a terrific vocalist who has this really unique and soulful voice. And we have some fun and interesting conversations around vocal style and whether he can scream or not. But most importantly, we talk about the brand new album titled Rebelator. And we get into some of the details on this album and go track by track and discuss some of these individual songs in detail. You guys are probably going to like this episode. So without further ado, here's the interview. Nate, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. I'm doing great.
Awesome, man. Well, let's get into it. I'm really glad to have you here today. Definitely going to get into a few things like the new album and such. But first, I just kind of wanted to start with some simple stuff. I know you're originally from Missouri, right? Are you a Mizzou fan?
Yeah. We're terrible and everything now, but yeah, grew up being a Mizzou fan.
Nice. Yeah. Because we're here at Atlanta. We're Georgia Bulldogs fans, of course. National champions. 2021 national champions.
Yeah, no big deal, man.
Of course, I have to throw that in every chance we get.
That was a game, dude. That was a game.
It was. But the rest of my family is actually Mizzou fans, and I'll tell you why. It's because my dad is from Springfield, Missouri, and went to Mizzou, and then my little brother followed in his footsteps and graduated from Mizzou last year. So.
Yeah, and then so the older brother didn't follow.
No, we of course went to Georgia and whatnot.
Yeah. Being champions and all.
No, but I love Mizzou. The campus is unbelievable. So nice.
It's a great town, especially like when we were coming up playing shows in that town. It was a great college town for rock and roll.
Yeah, that's an awesome place. Shakespeare's Pizza, the place I dug.
I miss that pizza. That's really the main thing I miss about being in Central Missouri is that pizza.
And last time I saw you guys, I think it was back in August 2017, you guys opened up for Nickelback and Daughtry. Was that a fun tour?
Oh, it was unreal. It was absolutely unreal. It was next level. I mean, we're used to playing clubs, so every night's an arena. All right, cool. You could every once in a while fly on their private jet to go to your next hotel room. Okay. Yeah, no, that's terrible. Also, we taught them how to play flip cup. So we started flip cup tournaments.
No way.
Yeah.
Nickelback didn't know how to play flip cup?
Apparently not. But it got real serious there on that tour with the tournament. Like the shows were kind of like secondary. We just couldn't wait for the flip cup games to begin.
Well, it's something that we like to do in the South. It's definitely flip cup and beer pong and things like that.
Yeah. We had to learn them Canucks.
That's funny. Yeah, that was an awesome show. I loved that one. And then, of course, I'm glad I get to interview you guys. I've been listening to you guys for a long time. And I think the first time I heard you guys was on the radio here in Atlanta back in 2009. And I remember specifically the first time I heard Dragonfly that came on because the DJ introduced the song and says, got a new song for you guys. This is Dragonfly. This is from a cool new band, Shaman's Harvest. But the thing is, they're not exactly new. They've been around for 10 years. And at that time, I think I was like 20 years old. I was like, oh my gosh, 10 years. It's such a long time to be around.
Same.
Of course, little did I know anything about the music industry, but I'm like, oh, that's a crazy long time. Now they have a single on the radio. This is cool.
Yeah. What's funny is right before that single, we were going to call it quits because it'd been 10 years, like that just for us too. It seemed like an eternity. Cool. We did that thing. Now let's just go work at the job sites, I guess, and regular 9 to 5s. And all of a sudden that single just started taking off, and I was like, oh well, I guess we'll go do a tour, I guess. And well, now it's like 12 years later, and we're still doing it.
That's a good song. You know what? It's not even my favorite song by any stretch. I mean, it's probably number 10 or so on the list of my favorites of yours.
Same.
You know, it's a good song, but it's not like what I consider you guys known for, which I think is cool. Some bands, you know, they get that big breakout song or whatever, and then that's like, you know, it's kind of like downhill from there, but definitely not for you guys.
Yeah, no, I would. Yeah, no, it definitely would have been if that was the best thing we had to offer. I feel like we definitely would have called it quits a long time ago. You know, it's still in the set because otherwise we'd, I think get strung up behind the club. It's still in the set. It's just we try to change it up from tour to tour, make it a little different to keep it interesting for us because we've been playing that, like you said, since 2009. That's an eternity.
And I know the music industry has changed quite a bit since there, and we could probably go on tangents for the next hour or so talking about the changes between 2009 and now. But right now, I really want to talk about the new album, Rebelator. This is your seventh album, right?
I think so. I don't know what it's it. Yeah, okay.
Tell me about how this album came together.
Um, well, we needed to make one. It had been a while since Red Hands and Black Deeds. We decided we were going to take a year off in, what was it, 2018 or 19? A year off to make a record. Because normally what we do is we go in the studio with kind of a half-cocked idea, maybe a guitar riff, maybe a melody, and then we finish writing it in the studio, lay it down, and then you kind of capture all the newness of it. But this time around, we wanted to like just see what kind of record we would make if we took the time for pre-production and really kind of just hone the craft of writing. So we took that year, and I think Murphy's Law hit us in every single way that we could, but that's just kind of the name of the game with music making, and made a record that we were proud of, and then the world shut down, and we've been sitting on it for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Now's the time to get it out there. Everybody's going back to it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do this.
Did you have any goals with the type of sound that you're going for with the album?
No, I mean, it was definitely going to be a little more modern than we've been making, just because we kind of went down the full vintage vibe with Red Hands, Black Deeds, and the record before that was kind of a blend of vintage and modern way of making a record. This one, we just wanted to do our sound, but just make it feel a little more modern, just because that's what we were interested in. Whatever the song is, that was the feeling of the day. I mean, they're honest songs, they're truth, at least for whatever we were feeling that day. So there was really no pre-planning details of what kind of record we wanted to make ahead of time. I just want to make a good one.
And a good record it is. I really like a lot of those songs on there. And I got some notes that I wrote down as I was listening to the album, and it's a fun album, man. I like it. Here's some of the notes that I came up with, and let me know if you have any background behind any of these songs you want to talk about. Of course, opens up with Under Your Skin. I think that's an awesome and catchy, fun song. And that bass guitar is really prevalent in driving.
Yeah. It's kind of the lead.
Yeah, that one's a fun one. Toe the Line has some really interesting background screams. They're pretty cool that I hadn't heard from you guys before.
Yeah, they're few and far between. Back in the day, early 2000s, they were in a lot of our material. But yeah, for sure, it's been a while since I pulled that one out. Bringing back the new metal within me. Anyways, not that it sounds like new metal, but I love that song because it's actually one of my favorites on the record, and I hated it when we first started. I absolutely hated that song, but the way it evolves from this weird time signature, and then it goes to this bridge, and it kind of gets bigger and bigger from a dropout point. There's a country and western acoustic guitar part that's in the bridge, but it's a heavy song. I just like all the mixtures of things, in that song.
That's a great song. And then one of your singles that you put out in the past, Voices, incredible vocals on that song, really, really catchy groove, nice chill vibe. But then it comes with those rockin' choruses and guitar solo. And really, honestly, the more I listen to this song, the more I like it more and more.
Sure, I think that's the MO of Shaman's Harvest. Is like there's sometimes some of our real diehard fans are like, "Man, I hate that brand new track." And then you'll see a comment like a month later, like, "Never mind, I'm just kidding. That's actually now my new favorite song." From the band. Yeah, that song was just like nothing's forced in it. Like it's just an easy song to write, to play. It needed to have power vocals, which those vocals that are on there was from the demo. But the demo was like, that sounds like a record, so let's just use those. Which led the rest of the guys to, they're having the finished vocal basically to play to, and it's kind of nice to have because it changes how they play. And really the hardest part about writing that song was we knew we needed a over-the-top soaring guitar solo, and we knew it was going to be a long one. And so, like, having the pressure of that, because the rest of the song was fit so well together, was really like, oh, we kind of need to try. We need to try when we write this guitar solo and not just wing it.
No, it's a good guitar solo. But some of the other songs on the album that I liked were Lilith, is really nice and eerie. It's got that twangy guitar, and then you have those, chugging riffs behind it. And then Hurricane, which kind of has that southern feel in the beginning, but then it gets super heavy and rocking. Those are good songs as well.
Yeah, man. Hurricane is cool because it's kind of a story type song. We don't write those very often, but when we do, it's just kind of fun to fictionalize, just have this little story in your head from a lyrical standpoint. And, I'm a big fan of bridges that probably are a little more excessive than they need to be. And the bridge and Hurricane just kind of goes on quite the tangent, which is just fun to listen to. It's fun to be driving to, your pedal goes down a little bit heavier.
And then, of course, Pretty People is one that you have. Is it Clint Lowry from Seven Dust featured on it?
Yep. Yeah, that was a co-write between us. And yeah, dude, he slayed. He slayed all those parts.
That's a fun tune. And then Wishing Wells is super heavy. I like that one.
Yeah, that one's fun because it mixes like heavy rock with like bluegrass instruments. And the ending, like there's a banjo, there's a mandolin, a lot of strings, because we had access to the St. Louis Symphony. So we're like, yeah, it's going on everything. Once they start playing, you're just like, oh my God, that's amazing. We have to put this on everything. That's another kind of, I don't know. It's just things with Shaman's Harvest. We just try to de-genreify the genre, I guess.
Yeah, and then lastly, of course, probably one of my favorite songs on the album, Bird Dog, that you guys put out, I think about a year ago now, as your first single. That is an interesting song. It's, super heavy, deep vocals, but it's slow and building, really kind of different than a lot of stuff out there that you normally listen to on, rock radio or in that vein. But I really dig that song.
Yeah, it feels like a gritty crime movie.
Yes.
Like when you're listening to it, it just feels like True Detective or I don't know, something like that, where you just have this very cinematic kind of thing. There's a lot of auxiliary tracks that are just kind of a soundscape that kind of help build that scene in your head.
Yeah, so as we said, a lot of good songs on the album. I'm glad we got to name some of them here and get a couple of notes from you. But I think kind of really at the heart of, all this is one of the things I like about your band is really your voice. It's a little bit different than other bands out there. It's a little bit more soulful, a little bit deeper than a lot of other bands. And I know you don't do a ton of screaming on your albums, but it still sounds super heavy with the rock and roll and goes really well with heavy tracks. And I think that's one of the things I like about you guys the most.
Right on. Well, I'm blushing. Yeah, so, the older I get, the more miles I put on the pipes. It's a thing that I accepted last record. It's like, dude, really, you're a baritone that when pressed can hit some first tenor, if I have to. But like I had a producer tell me, he's like, why do you keep trying to go so high? Just like your voice is unique, being kind of deep and low and rich. And, it worked for Johnny Cash. Why can't it work for rock and roll? And so I don't know, it just kind of stuck with me. It's like, why am I keep trying to hide my lower voice? And that's with Bird Dog. That was one of the very few times that lower registry is the main vocal, throughout most of the song.
That is the interesting part of it that I listened to. I was like, I don't hear many songs where that low of a vocal is the main one.
Yeah. Usually it's a kind of a backup or a harmony, right?
Yeah. And then now that I told you how cool your voice is, what is something that you wish you could emulate from another singer, or a technique or a sound that you're like, man, I just wish I had that?
Yeah, the number one thing that I wish, like you brought up screams earlier. I've never known how to like properly do it that protects, there's a thing called vocal fry that a lot of the bands that rely on the scream aspect of their vocal more so than the melodic part, they use a vocal fry, and it's a safe way to do it where you can just scream these real high screams without it damaging. And I've never known how to do it. I've practiced it. It's just all growl and full voice every time I do it. So, you can only do so much of that before it blows you out. So I wish I knew how to do some of that protective scream.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll learn it someday.
Well, it's been 20 something years, maybe another 20, I'll get it.
Well, Chris Cornell was trying to learn different ways to sing, even, later into his career. So,
Yeah. I mean, Chris Cornell is a great example of, he was obviously a tremendous singer up to his death, but his voice did change considerably the older he got. And you can hear him being safer with his vocals the later in life, the more seasoned he was, which is a smart move, because it gives you longevity. It allows you to continue to do it. But yeah, so he's a really great example of someone whose voice changed, and you just kind of have to accept that. Or you can hide it and then fake it in the studio and never do it live. And that's kind of a shitty way to go about
it. Yeah. And then you guys are going on tour with Theory of a Dead Man.
Yeah.
How excited are you for this tour?
Well, there's so many factors. The Theory guys are all great dudes. We tour with them. I feel like it's almost every record cycle. They're usually like the first tour, I think. So just being with a bunch of musicians again, when we haven't been able to, is great. Like I said, we took a year off, and then, stuff happened after that we got done. So we've taken basically 3 years since we played a show. So there's just so many things involved emotionally. I just had a baby, so I'm trying to figure out how to be, be dad from the road again, that's a new thing again. So yeah, there's just so much involved emotionally of getting this tour going. And I really feel like once it gets started, everybody's going to settle in real nicely. Yeah.
So speaking of touring, what is the worst show that you've ever played that comes to mind? Maybe it was a bad performance you had, a bad crowd, a small crowd, or maybe just a weird venue.
I've had some, there's been plenty, this is rock and roll, so there's plenty of places where there's small crowds. But I've had some, I've had bad nights vocally, obviously, especially when you've been out on the road for 7 months and you don't have any days off, really. It starts stacking up, and, I've had it to where I've even thought about canceling shows. Luckily, I've never had to cancel a show for my voice, but I think one of the worst days was this festival we did up north. We didn't know at the time, but everything shut down. The PA system stopped. Everything stopped. We lost all electricity. It's because they didn't put enough gas in the generators. They forgot to check them. But so it started out like a bummer, because we got like a song in, and we had driven all night to make the festival, because I think we were way out west. So like there was all this, and then all of a sudden there's this big letdown of everything shutting down. But a cool thing that happened out of it was we went out and just stood on people's shoulders and grabbed the acoustics and finished the set acoustically. And it was kind of a cool experience for the fans and for us, just to at least give them something. At least the 100 people that were close enough to hear, anyways.
Oh, fun. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Obviously, big fan of the Smoking Hearts and Broken Guns album. Awesome album. You have an incredible cover on there of Dirty Diana, originally by Michael Jackson, of course. Excellent, excellent cover. One of my favorite covers by a rock band for a pop song.
Thanks, man.
Any chance you do another cover in the future?
Oh, always. I mean, it just has to be something we're into, I'm not a purist when it comes to like, we can't ever do covers. I think they're fun. I think they're a blast, and people really gravitate to them. Or they gravitate to them, or they absolutely hate them. So yeah, no, I'd be down with doing any covers, as long as it's creative and as long as it's different from the original.
Gotcha. But you didn't put any covers on this album or the one before at all.
So we're kind of due.
You kind of do. You're not the band that puts it out every album.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like we're safe. We can get away with. I've actually been kind of toying with the idea of doing just an entire, like an EP or a full length record of cover songs.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it'd be a good time.
Yeah, I think Hailstorm put out like 3 cover EPs, and Stone Sour put out like 3 cover EPs. That might be a good move.
Yeah. Do like 3 of them and kind of like spread it out from releasing. Holy cow, maybe I did go to business school.
So these next questions are what we close with and ask everyone.
Okay.
So first question, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
Oh man, take it easy. Don't try to sound like anybody. It's going to work out. Just be yourself from a musical standpoint, keep it honest. And also don't like take a hair straightener to your hair and do a comb over because you think you're emo for a year. Don't do that.
I might have to go find a picture of that if it's online.
They're out there.
Next question. What are you drinking lately? And if you don't drink alcohol, it could be anything refreshing you like to drink.
I'm in Tennessee, so there's a lot of great bourbon distilleries around. But my favorite whiskey right now is Whistle Pig. I got turned on to it a couple years ago. It's got like the clove vibe kind of on the back. It's real nice. They make a bunch of there's a few different Whistle Pigs. It's, it's not like ridiculously priced. It's a little higher price, but it's not, it's not crazy. So I've been sipping on that. And then I just got there's this soda that my wife bought me, even though I don't drink soda. It's called Flying Cauldron non-alcoholic butterscotch beer. It's a soda. It's not beer. I don't know why they call it that, but holy shit. This thing is ridiculous. I'm going to definitely spend more time in the gym trying to work that off.
I'll have to try that. That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for sugar, man.
Whistle Pig's always good as well. I need to go pick myself a bottle of that. Like you said, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not like top shelf.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, this is the Rock Down South podcast. So, what is something, or maybe a couple things that come to mind, that you love about the South?
Oh, people come to shows. They don't give a fuck. I mean, like, every place you play has its, like, benefits. But I've never struggled to get people out to a show. Like, even, like, is the Masquerade still there in Atlanta?
Well, they tore it down. They moved it somewhere else. But yes, they have 3 stages of the Masquerade, 3 or 4 now.
Well, the old one, like, the place was always packed when we come through and play. Like, there's never a struggle to get people out. The food, obviously, is ridiculous. Amazing.
Hey, thank you, Nate, so much for being a part of the show today. Where can people find and connect with you online?
Yeah, they can do the Facebook thing. I am a King Squatcho on the Instagrams. But if you want to get like merch and check out tour dates and whatnot, you want to go to shamansharvest.net, not .com. You want to go to shamansharvest.net.
All right, shamansharvest.net for tour dates. Check out the new album, Rebelator, and new tour with Theory of a Dead Man. Anything else we need to mention?
No, you just covered all the important aspects.
Awesome.
Oh, no, there's one thing. There's like, it's super hard to tour right now. So if we come to your town, I don't want to hear about it a month later why we don't come to your town because you didn't come out to the show. So make sure you come to them.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I had a really good time chatting with Nate. He's a terrific vocalist and a really fun guy to talk with. So glad we were able to discuss this new album, as it's a fun one. So make sure to go follow Nate and Shaman's Harvest on all of their social media pages and give their latest album, Rebelator, a listen. And take a look at their tour schedule, as they may be coming to a city near you soon. Check out all our content at rockdownsouth.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest updates. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests are theirs and don't necessarily reflect our own. I'm Mark, and you've been listening to Rock Down South. See y'all next time.